Hello, welcome to my channel. This is Style with Ufoma Omoluru, and if you're joining me for the first time on this channel, what I do is share with you sewing and DIY ideas. So today I'm going to be cutting a halter neck crop top, and for this particular halter neck crop top tutorial, as you see, you need 1 yard. So don't forget, if you've not subscribed, you need to subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any of my videos. To start cutting, I'm going to be using a paper pattern, and what I have folded on the table is just enough to cut what I need. So you need to get a paper pattern and fold, and from the folded side you want to take your shoulder measurement, which I'm going to do. So I'm going to be cutting using my own size. So normally for me, my shoulder is 16, but I'm going to be using 14. So you want to use at least 2 inches less than your normal shoulder. Now from that point, I'm going to get my armhole like you would normally do when you want to cut a top. But before then, I want to also get the length of my top. So I am going to use my underbust, which is 15 inches. So you want to know what your underbust is. So use a ruler, and I'm using 15 inches. So I'm going to cut off from the paper what I don't need. It's always better to use a paper pattern before you cut, because that way you don't waste your fabric and you can correct any mistake. So now that I've cut that off, what I'm going to do next is to create my armhole. So from the top, I'm going to measure 9 inches because that's what I would use normally, 9 inches. Then get my bust measurement. So you want to use your bust measurement divided by 4, and you're going to rule that like I've just done on my paper. Then we're going to create the armhole. I'm going to use my ruler to form like an angle straight to the armhole level and outward. So you want to make your curve like you normally do. Next, I want to get my neckline, which is 4 inches for my V neckline. That's what I will use normally. So I'm going to rule all the way from that point to the end of my paper block, because the neck is going to be plunged, just as you saw in the picture of this crop top, alternate crop top tutorial. So now I'm going to also make my armhole straight. It's not going to be angled like you fix a sleeve. So I'm just going to roll straight down to make it more or less a straight line. Now I'm going to cut around that. And I'm going to cut also around the neckline. So next, what I want to do is to take off 1 inch from the side like you do your regular top, so that it's relaxed. And I'm going to take off about 1 inch from the side as well, from the side and from the center part of my block. And this is necessary so that your top also grips your bust well, because if you don't make that curve, most times you have opening at that point. So now that we have our block for the halter neck top, what I will need to do now is to cut out this on the fabric. So when I'm going to sew, I'm going to make a front in the middle to give some volume to accommodate the boobs, because if you don't do that, it may flatten out your boobs when you wear this halter neck top. So before I go to cut on my fabric, I'm going to measure the strap that is going to go all the way from the shoulder to the back. So I just measured this against the width of the shoulder on my front block. So you need to make sure it's exact, and that's what I'm doing. So measure that out. At the end of the cutting, for me, it was 3.5 inches wide. So I'm just trying to make it straight and cut along the same width, 3.5 inches. But I'm going to make sure that this is at least 16 inches long. So you can make your strap as long as you want. So now I'm going to get my fabric, and I'm going to be using this beautiful dashiki print. You know I love my prints. So since it's a fabric with pattern, I'm going to be cutting along the pattern so I can maximize the use of my pattern. So I just placed the block on it, and I'm going to get my scissors, and I'm going to cut around it, leaving 0.5 inch allowance or ease. So all around, leave 1/2 inch. But at the top, I just cut exactly what I need. Then at the bottom as well, I'm going to be leaving 1/2 inch for my seam. So you see how beautifully that came out because I used my print properly. So now we need to cut 2 pieces of each side because it needs to be lined. Then we're going to stitch all around. Next, I want to cut my strap. But before I cut the strap, I'm going to cut what I need for the bottom. You know, round it, you need a long piece of fabric like a wide strap, and I'm going to be using 4 inches wide on fold. So when you open that, it's 8 inches. So make it as long as you want. If you cut and you feel it's not long enough, feel free to cut 2 pieces and you stitch together to make it as long as you would like it to be. It just needs to go round your waist and enough to tie. So this is what it's going to be looking like. So I'm going to add that after I must have done the fronts or the gathers around the bust. So now I'm going to be using the pattern for the strap to cut my strap. So I'm using 16 inches long. So even if your paper block you cut was not long enough, you can make it long enough on your fabric. The paper pattern just serves as a guide for this halter neck crop top strap. So remember to fold in 2 because it needs to be doubled. So now that's all we need. We've cut the strap, we've cut the main piece for the halter neck top, and now I've just stitched around. You know, you can see it's doubled. I use the same fabric to double it, the sides. So also the strap, I've closed the ends. So now that strap is going to go in at the top just like that. And I just ran a long stitch at the bottom of the block or the piece, the front piece. So you want to pull that, and when it forms that gathers, what it does is create volume for your boobs. So you don't need to wear a bra, and it's not going to flatten your boobs. So this is really important that you do this. So make sure they are even. So what I do is I measure 3 inches from the center before I start pulling before the fronts. So you need to do that so that they are even when you're wearing. So now the strap is going to go in. You have 2 different methods you can use. You can decide to just fold the way I'm folding in, half an inch or a quarter. Then you place the strap right in there and you can run your stitch over that. Or alternatively, you can turn the piece, one of the piece inside out. Then you put the right side of the strap inside, the front side facing the front side. You pull it out from the top of the shoulder and you're just going to stitch. You're just going to run that, having the strap inside one of the sides of the front piece or the halter neck crop top before we join them together. So this is easier and it comes out with a better finishing. So you want to do this to the both sides before you now go on to form the fronts at the bottom to pull to create the volume for your bust or for your boobs. So now I'm going to run the stitch. So as you see, there are always alternatives to sewing. It doesn't have to be one way. There are so many ways to kill a rat. So either way it works and it's going to give you the same product. But I think I like this better. So now I've done this to both, and just get your sewing machine and you stitch the center together. Then get your long piece of fabric that you cut earlier. You're going to close the sides, but you're going to measure the width of your top of the front piece, and at where it ends you want to close the ends of your strap from both sides, and you leave the center part that you need to stitch on, and you just stitch and your top is ready. So it's so easy to make a beautiful summer halter neck crop top.